Christian faith and fiction, inspirational reading suggestions, along with chats about the Christian faith. The following episode is an audio version of a video that I recorded for my YouTube channel, Christian Faith and Fiction. If you would like to watch the video rather than listen to the audio, you can do so by clicking the link in the show notes. Please do share your thoughts by commenting either on the video or on the relevant blog post, links in the show notes. Hi, it's Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction. Happy New Year! I have finished wrapping up the books that I read at the end of 2023. There's quite a few different ones there, some Christian fiction and some non-fiction Bible study type of books, some Christmas themed ones as well as some others as well. I read quite a few books because the Christmas themed ones tend to be quite short. So I record my reviews as I'm going along, so let's see how I got on. Hey, I finished the Looking Glass Illusion by Sara Ella. This is the second book in the Curious Realities duology, and it is fantasy, futuristic, dystopian, and it's heavily influenced by the books about Alice, so Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. And it has a small amount of Christian allegory, I would say. The first book was more based on Alice in Wonderland. This one has a lot more to do with Alice Through the Looking Glass, and I am quite familiar with both those books. I found it helpful to have read those before when I was reading this one, because absolutely everything relates back to something in those books, whether it's the world that's going on, whether it's the names of the characters, whether it's the sort of magical elements in the book. Everything's sort of relating back to that one. I'm not going to go too much into the plot of this book as it's the second book, but I will say that Alice Through the Looking Glass shows up a lot in this book, and I would say I would recommend reading both those books before you read this duology. I really enjoyed the creativity of this book. I enjoyed the world and the characters and how everything comes together and the fantastical elements of the story. I enjoyed my journey through reading the story. However, there were a few things that sort of took away from my enjoyment. The first one is it is quite weird as a fantasy book. It's definitely on the weirder side of the scale, so that's something to bear in mind if you are picking this book up. I liked the weirdness, I liked the strangeness, but for me it did cross over the line at times into too weird, because I was confused at times and there were some unanswered questions which maybe if I read it through again I might make sense of. But yeah, it definitely crossed over for me into too much. I enjoyed the weird creative elements of it, but it did get too much for me. And secondly, there were some things that I was expecting to happen, really hoping to happen, and they didn't happen. So although I really enjoyed the journey, when I got to the end I felt a bit deflated because it wasn't what I wanted. I didn't get what I wanted from it, or what I was expecting from some of the hints and clues. It turned out in a different way. For instance, I was really hoping there's going to be a really strong Christian allegory throughout the book, and there were moments of like echoes of the Christian faith throughout it, but I didn't get what I was looking for. I think if I'd have gone into this book knowing that that was not going to be the case, I'd probably have enjoyed it more, because all the way through I was like, oh, when's it going to be? When's it going to happen? Something's going to happen. I feel like this is, this has got potential for a really strong Christian message to come in at some point, but it didn't go there. So I was a bit disappointed with that, and maybe I missed some of it because of the strangeness of the story. And the bits I got confused with, but I don't think I did. So yeah, it's still classed as a Christian fantasy, I think. I would rate it 1.5 out of 3 for Christian faith rating. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 for a story enjoyment rating of 4 stars. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as the first one. I gave that one 5 stars. Just one thing I'll say on the content, there was one word in there that is considered sort of bad language in Britain, and I'm not going to say it out loud. It's the bugger off phrase that she actually put in the glossary at the end, and she said it means go away, which technically it does, but I'm not going to tell you what the B word actually means. You can look it up from yourselves, because we've got younger viewers and I don't want to get into problems with YouTube and everything. It's a bit stronger than just telling them to go away. It's not a British phrase. It is actually an offensive phrase, which I didn't know that when I was a teenager. So, but once I knew what it meant, I never used that one again. So yeah. I finally finished reading a couple of commentaries that I've been reading for over a year, maybe nearly 2 years. I'm not sure. And there's 2 on Matthew. So the New International Biblical Commentary by Robert H. Mounce and the Message of Matthew by Michael Green. These are both, how do I describe them? They are kind of academic, but they're not. They're from the position of people who have a genuine faith, I believe. From reading these, they sound like they actually believe that the Bible is the word of God, and rather just a classic text or written by men. They don't pick it apart in the way that some commentators do. So coming from more of a position of faith, I found them really helpful. I didn't agree with everything that they said by any means, but most of the stuff I found really helpful and helping me to dig deeper into the text, get to know more about the context and have a better understanding of that, as well as like some applications for it as well that they go into. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed this series. I'm going to pick up other commentaries in the future in the same series. I think it was helpful having 2 different perspectives, because sometimes they didn't agree or they had different things. They brought out different things from the text, and that was helpful in my studies. So yeah, I would give them both 4 stars. I finished reading The Love Script by Toni Shiloh. This is a Christian contemporary romance. It is following Neve, who is a hairstylist working in LA, wanting to get into having more of a business in Hollywood or a salon, and she is one of her clients is the mother of a great star in Hollywood, and she's there, and at some point they're kind of leaving together and there's an unfortunate incident and a photo of them gets leaked to the press together, and everybody thinks that they are together, maybe sleeping together. And so in order to sort of combat all of this, they come up with this idea of having a fake dating relationship. So that is how the story kind of starts and goes on, and it's kind of following them as they are navigating their emotions through this, and they're also what they think God will think about it and their faith throughout it. On paper, this story should have been a really good match for me. I like the setup of it, I like the characters of it, I like how much faith content there is in it through most of the time, but I didn't get on with it really. I got bored in the middle and I ended up speed reading through the second half of it. I think part of it is that the story to me felt like the setup from a novella, a short, and if it had been a short book I would have really liked it, but it felt like it'd been sort of stretched out and elongated to make the length of a full-length novel, and rather than like, I would have preferred it rather than they just sort of added more into the plot in a linear way, that they actually layered in more subplots and gave a bit more variety to the story. I really need for contemporary romance a bit more going on other than just their relationship and what kind of impacts on that. There was a little bit here and there of different things and a few different characters, but I really needed a lot more of that just to give more variety to keep my interest. So yeah, I did it made me a bit go into a bit of a slump because I wanted to finish it, but I wasn't really into it while I was reading it so much. So yeah, I did speed read through in the end, and I don't usually like to do that. I like to take my time and immerse myself in a book. But I wanted to finish so I could get onto my Christmas books and reads. So yeah, I don't know whether I'll continue with this series or not. Yeah, the faith content was pretty high throughout. There was one instance where one of the side characters was practicing yoga and nothing was said about it. It just said how fantastic it was. Didn't say whether it was meant to be just exercising on their part or whether it was like actual yoga with the chanting and the meditation and stuff, which I don't find helpful. I don't think it would be helpful to any Christians coming out of a New Age background. I think if you just mean that the character is doing like exercise and stretching, just use the word exercise and stretching. Don't use the word yoga, because it means so much more to people who actually have practiced it, particularly people coming from a non-Christian background coming into Christianity. Yoga is very much the Hindu kind of form of yoga with all the other bits added in, not just doing some stretching. So yeah, if any Christian fiction writers are listening to this, please can you just not use the word yoga in your books? It would be a lot better. And I have to so this one would be a Christian faith rating of 3 out of 3 minus 1 for that sort of problematic bit. But it was only mentioned once, and I have a sort of 2 strikes and you're out view about DNFing books. So it just mentioned it once. She didn't go into any other sort of New Age stuff later on in the book, so I was very thankful for that. So 3 minus 1 for Christian faith rating, and a 6 out of 10 for story enjoyment rating, and I'll give it 3 stars on Goodreads. Hey guys, I have just finished reading a couple of books I want to talk about. The first is by Sophie Hannah. It is Hercule Poirot's Silent Night. These are like the new versions of Hercule Poirot's stories that Agatha Christie originally wrote, but Sophie Hannah is now writing some new mysteries, so they're completely new as far as I'm aware. Don't know if they were ever based on anything that Agatha Christie ever had planned out or anything. I'm not sure about that, but they're new ones. So this one is set at Christmas, and it is following Poirot with Inspector Catchpole, who is a character that I'm not aware of that popped up in any of her original books. So it was a good. I'll come back to this in a minute, but I think it was a good decision to make him the perspective character and the narrator for the story. But he doesn't want to spend Christmas with his mother. He wants to spend it with Poirot, but his mother somehow gets them both to go to stay in this country house where there has been a murder in a local cottage hospital. This is set in like 1931. They are really not wanting to spend Christmas there, but they are sort of get employed to solve the murder that happened in this nearby hospital. The person who owns the house lives in the house. She is really worried for her husband's safety because he's about to go and stay there because he's got a terminal illness. For whatever reason, she's worried that he's going to be the next victim. I gave this story enjoyment rating of 8 out of 10 and Christian faith rating of 0 out of 3. It was clean and yeah, no real Christian content to this one, but I enjoyed the mystery. I thought it was very much in the style of Agatha Christie. I could tell the difference in the voice, but as I said, I thought it was a good idea to have a different character as a narrator, because then it kind of covers over any differences between one author's style and another. But it was very much in that vein of country house murder mystery book and set at Christmas. So yeah, I enjoyed the progress of the mystery and the puzzles and the clues and that. The resolution was okay. I definitely read it in the right time of the year, sort of leading up to Christmas. Then I finished All's Fair in Love and Christmas by Sara Monzon. This is Christian contemporary romance, Christian Christmas themed romance. It is not as short as a novella. It's like 250 pages, something like that, maybe just a bit less than that. and it is like a rom-com. I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was good fun. It is following Mackenzie and Jeremy, who are two people working in the same sort of design company office, and they get called in by the boss, who says, I'm going to promote one of you two to give you a promotion, and both of them need to get that promotion for different reasons, but they both know that this boss has a habit of promoting people who are the most Christmassy person of the year. So the person that brings the most Christmas spirit into the office usually gets the promotion. So they kind of end up going sort of head to head, trying to make their office and their colleagues have the best Christmas experience of that year, whilst also Mackenzie has had a crush on Jeremy for a very long time, and she has sort of social anxiety problems. She struggles to talk to people and relate to people. She also has some anxiety issues, which may be a trigger warning for some people. She also has a mother who has dementia. And Jeremy's got some things going on at home as well in his situation. Both of those things are reasons why they could do with the extra money themselves, and they could do with the promotion, and it's about their kind of competing with each other, but also kind of liking each other. Sort of a classic rom-com Christmas feel to it. I thought it was good. I thought the characters were quirky. There was some faith content in there as well. It wasn't too cheesy for me. The characters were sort of individual enough not to make them sort of cardboard cutout standard generic Christmas romance, and there was enough like stuff going on that was harder to sort of balance out some of the lighter Christmassy romance themes as well. So I did think it had fairly good balance to it. Content-wise, it was clean. There's a little bit of focus on the desire side of romance, but not too much. And the only thing that I would say is there was one mention or one recommendation of a book in here that I personally wouldn't recommend as a Christian. But apart from that, everything else was great. I would give it 8.5 out of 10 for story enjoyment rating and 2 out of 3 for Christian faith content. I finished reading Christmas at Carnton by Tamera Alexander. This is a sort of shorter historical fiction, Christian historical romance. It is set during the Civil War in America and in Franklin, Tennessee, 21 miles south of Nashville. So it's from that perspective in the war, and I am not particularly into that part of American history as a sort of thing that I would be drawn to, but it's a Christmas book and historical, and I wanted to read it this Christmas. It is following Aletta, who is recently widowed. Her husband died fighting in the war, and she's left with a son, and she's very pregnant, and she is at the beginning of the book she's made redundant from the job that she's got, and so she's looking for work. She ends up at Carnton, which is this sort of big house, and she's working there, and at the same time another guy called Jake is injured, and he gets sent there to try and recover and see whether he can get back some of the things he's lost through his injuries. So they are thrown together over Christmas. They are trying to do things together to help the war effort and help the widows. It has definitely got a Christmassy feel to it, and because of that it definitely has some Christian content to it. I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed the characters as well. I felt like it was a little bit fast for a romance to be developing. She's only been a widow for like 2 months or something, which seemed very quick to me. I don't know what it was like at that time in history, whether people did just sort of form relationships really quickly. She obviously needed support financially at that point, but yeah, there's sort of an attraction and feelings developing pretty quickly. If it would have been me, I think 2 months seems very quick to have gone through the grieving process and be looking out for somebody else, or even considering it at all, or even feeling anything. I don't know. I've never been through it, so I don't know. Just felt a bit quick to me. Other than that, I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed the story. I liked the different characters, the world. This is like the first book in the series. I think there are more books that are full-length books set in Carnton or in this sort of place. I don't know whether I would continue with the series because the time period isn't really one that interests me so much, but I thought the writing was very good. I give it 4 stars, probably 8 out of 10 for story enjoyment. 2.5 out of 3 for Christian faith rating. Definitely one that is good to pick up at Christmas time and has more weightier content to it than your average kind of very light, fluffy romance at Christmas time. Hey, I've finished reading You Make It Feel Like Christmas by Toni Shiloh. This is a sort of short contemporary romance with Christian faith content in it. It's at Christmas, obviously, and it is following Star, who at the beginning of the book loses her job in New York. She's going back to her family for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and she is going back to the wedding to attend the wedding of her sister, her older sister, who is marrying her ex-boyfriend, Star's ex-boyfriend. So while she's there, she meets one of her brother's friends, Waylon, who his mother has passed away and has left him a Christmas shop that he is trying to get on its feet and run it. So it does have very Christmassy themes. They are working together in the shop. They are going and doing Christmassy things together, as well as lots of things going on with the family. I enjoyed the relationships with the family and the conflicts that come about there, and the internal conflicts that were going on. It was fun and light, but although I can tolerate like cheesy romance at Christmas, I felt like this one did at times cross the line into too cheesy and a little bit cringy. I know that the character Waylon is meant to be a cheesy character. It specifically said, "Oh, you've come up with these cheesy lines and stuff," but it did cross the line for me of being a bit like bit too much. So yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10 for story enjoyment rating. There was some good Christian content in there, so I'll give it 3 out of 3 for Christian faith rating. Hey, so I'm just going to quickly do a quick review of A Royal Christmas by Melody Carlson. I just finished this one. It is sort of following that Princess Diaries retelling type of thing, but it goes off into its own thing. So it's following Adelaide, who is studying to be a lawyer, and she discovers that she has a royal father, and she has to go over to this country in Europe to meet her father, who is dying. And it kind of, some of the book follows that sort of story of she's a royal, maybe she could take over from him. There are people who don't like her. There are people who do like her. There's a romance in there. Parts of it I found a little bit predictable, but other parts of it I found kind of went off in its own direction. The parts that were more predictable, it was okay, but the parts that were a bit more unpredictable, I enjoyed a lot more. So I give this one a 7 out of 10 for story enjoyment rating, and 2 out of 3 for Christian faith rating. There is some Christian content around Christmas time and prayer and that kind of thing, but not a huge amount, but there was some there. So I have 2 great books to share with you next. I read A Texas Christmas Carol by Karen Witemeyer. This is a historical Christian novella, and it is set in Texas, obviously, in 1895, I think. It is a retelling of A Christmas Carol, and it's following Felicity, who is trying to put together some baskets to give away at Christmas to the poor, I think. And she is determined to get the wealthiest man in the neighbourhood to help her out. He is called Evan, and he is very obsessed with business and with making money and keeping money, and has pushed everybody away from him. He's got a reputation for being quite grumpy and not a people person, and she is determined to get him involved because she sees potential in him. It is quite short. It's a novella. It was very Christmassy themed. I enjoyed the characters. I really liked Felicity's tenacity and stubbornness and her love of people. And I thought their romance was lovely. It was heartwarming. His sort of redemption story was great as well. And there was some good Christian content in there, I think. So I've rated this one 9 out of 10 for story enjoyment rating and 3 out of 3 for Christian faith rating. And then I read Better Watch Out by Natalie Waters. This was our book club pick for December, and I love this one. So I was kind of surprised by this one. I'd not really heard it much talked about until it got picked for book club. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It is Christian romance, contemporary romance with a side order of suspense. So I wouldn't say it was completely romantic suspense, because the romance is definitely a bigger part of this plot than the suspense elements. But I really enjoyed the suspense parts of it. Really helped the story to be a great story for me. Contemporary romance, I usually need something else in the subplot, something else going on in their lives or internally, just to make it a good book change to a great book. So this is going to be a 5-star book for me again. It's following Franny, who goes to New York. She saved up her money to go to New York and meet the person who she thinks she's in a long-term relationship with. He went away about a year before. They haven't really seen each other, but she's going to surprise him and meet up with him. And she is hoping that maybe he'll propose to her, and she's got this bucket list of things that she wants him to do in New York while they're there in the kind of build up to Christmas, and she's really hoping for that. When she gets there, she finds that he is not interested in her at all. He thinks the relationship is actually over, and she's just devastated by that. And her brother is like part of I don't know if he's FBI or he's part of something, and he is obsessed with security, and so he hires this private security guy, defenseman called Andrew, to take her to the airport to make sure nothing's happens to her, and get her out of New York. He doesn't want her going around on her own, but she's determined. She still wants to do some things off of the bucket list, and Andrew is got this case going on where he's trying to protect this millionaire and the millionaire's daughter, and somehow, I won't go into how, it sort of ends up with Franny becoming a target in this plot. So we've got this really cute kind of friendship that's building into something more between Franny and Andrew, and they're kind of stuck together as Andrew's having to then protect her but not tell her things. And yeah, I don't want to say too much, but she's still trying to fulfill her bucket list of things whilst recovering from this kind of breakup, but also being attracted to this guy who's now with her. Alongside that, then there's the suspense plot that kind of going along in the background. So it was a really good mix of rom-com and a bit of suspense in there as well. Just that kind of frisson, is that the right word, of danger added to the plot a lot. And I give this one 10 out of 10 for story enjoyment, and 2 out of 3 for Christian faith content. There was some indication in there that the characters were Christians, although it wasn't a big part of the plot. Throughout there was moments where it came and it was an important part. I thought the characters felt very original, kind of quirky, and it was upbeat and fun, and there was a lot of Christmassy feel to it, and New York at Christmas. And I also really liked the ending of it as well, which was good. So I finished reading a novella by Cindy Kirk. It's the first one in this winter collection, and it's called Love at Mistletoe Inn. It is following a lady called Hope, who when she was younger got married very quickly, just ran off to be married to her boyfriend, and then immediately she regretted it, and the pastor, the vicar who did the wedding, said, don't worry, I won't send in the papers, so you won't really be married, and it'll be as if it never happened. But then 10 years later, she's at this wedding fair, and she overhears a conversation about somebody else who's like talking about this, and they said, oh, don't worry, if you sign the papers, doesn't matter if you've filed them or not, it's still going to be legal. So then she starts to think, if she's still married to this guy John, who she ran away with 10 years ago, and then she goes home and finds that he's there, he's turned up on their doorstep. So that's what this novella is about. It's kind of in the build-up to Christmas, more sort of December-ish, I would say, than a really Christmassy feel to it. So maybe it would have been better to read it like earlier in the month. I thought it was a really interesting premise. I don't think I've read anything like that before. So it was an interesting sort of dilemma about what to do. Are they really married? What do you do if you are? And do they really want to pursue a relationship or not? Yeah, it was an interesting dilemma. It was quite short, so I felt like it could have been a bit longer, and it felt a little bit rushed at times. But I did enjoy it. I give it 8 out of 10 for story enjoyment rating. I felt like there was some good faith content in there. They did have to pray about what to do and consult God what to do for their future. So I give it 3 out of 3 for a Christian faith rating. The final books of the year that I've completed were the Bible in 1 Year audio Bible read by David Suchet. This is NIV one, and I enjoy listening to him. He has done some audio books, other ones like Poirot, because he played Poirot in the British TV series, and he's read the whole Bible. So this is the Bible in the year. It was great to have like it broken up into small chunks, and yeah, it's been good to do that. The audible version seems to have some technical issues for me, so I don't know why it seemed to like want to jump back into other books like the Book of Job. It would just suddenly jump into a different one, so I'm not quite sure about that. But you can listen to his version, I think, and many other audio Bibles on the Bible app, which was called YouVersion, I think. I'll try and leave a link to it in the description, and yeah, you can listen to them for free on there, and hopefully without the technical issues. And alongside that, I listened to Nicky Gumbel's commentary on the Bible in a year. So every day there's a commentary to go with those particular Bible readings. So that was good to listen to. I don't think it's that old, but I feel like some of them, the examples and maybe some of the people he quotes from might date a little quickly. So yeah, don't know about that, but it was good to have something to listen to as I was going along. So I've given them both 4 stars each. Those are the books that I have read at the end of 2023. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of them, what you thought of them, and also if you have read a really good book recently, let me know as well. I think my favourite one of the Christmas period is going to be Better Watch Out by Natalie Walters. This was a surprise to me, I think, but I think some of the other ladies liked it as well. So those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. I hope you're having a fantastic beginning to 2024, and I haven't quite got my head around saying 2024 yet, but I hope you have a really great reading week. Until next time, God bless. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Christian Faith and Fiction podcast. If you would like more information, you can click the link in the description. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app to make sure you catch the next episode.